Joan Quinn is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories are seen in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to Angelus magazine. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Welcome to Etc. British designer Zandra Rhodes was in town recently to make an appearance at the Neiman Marcus store in Beverly Hills. We were lucky enough to get an interview with her before she left Los Angeles. Zandra does much more than design dresses. She is a true artist in many fields. We'll show you how talented she is in this interview with Zandra Rhodes. The pleasure of introducing our guest today, Ms. Zandra Rhodes, the renowned British designer. She's a woman of many talents, and it's hard to start letting people know what you do, Zandra.
Oh, well, you've always been wonderful like that.
Zandra is known throughout the world for this look. So
my exotic pink hair that I don't have now.
We want you to know what she looked like. How long ago?
That particular picture is 1982, but in fact, I had pink hair up until last year, 1989.
And what caused you to change your hair color?
Oh, I thought I ought to come into a new look. When you first met me, I'm not going to say how many years ago, I had green hair.
That's right. You look very good. You're starting to become a little bit more conservative.
That's it. To go with my conservative fashions.
But tell us what you're doing in Los Angeles.
I'm here doing my yearly personal appearance for Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills, showing my dresses.
Will you be having a fashion show this time?
I'm doing small fashion shows, and I'm there to meet people all the time, which is wonderful because I get a chance to hear how they've worn last season's dresses and be consulted on this season's, which is great.
That's what we need you for. You've been to Las Vegas, Zandra. What do you think of Las Vegas?
I love all that glitz. I mean, I did a whole show where I made the models look like showgirls and gave them light-up earrings like I'd seen the cigarette girls have in Las Vegas.
What happens when you do travel a lot? What happens when you're traveling? Are you always doing shows? Are you painting? Are you getting ideas for your designs?
When I'm traveling, like I'm here this trip, I try and draw before I go into the store and be inspired like that. Or if I go specially, like when I went to Las Vegas, I collect postcards, do photographs, do drawings, and that was how I arrived at the print which was based on the Neon Man in Las Vegas, which is the one on your shirt here, which is the one that says Howdy Partners in the neon lights.
So that's what you draw
I do drawings of the different things and then take photographs, and those are all the things that are illustrated in my book. Like this one was the Indian feather design after going to the Indian Museum in New York.
Can you get a close-up on that?
Have I sprung that on them too much?
Let's see. She's showing us pictures from the Art of Zandra Rhodes, a book that is now out of print.
But it's all the different stories behind my travels around America, getting inspiration from different things.
But you traveled to other places besides America. Where you were in Australia?
I was in Australia and drew the rock in the centre and did a whole print based around the rock. I've been to Thailand and did prints with Thailand.
How do you start the process, actually? What happens once you make the drawing?
I do the drawing, and then I start to think about how it would look on the actual dress, like with the one that you've got on, which is the button and bow print. I'd work out where the bows were going to go, and then I'd start painting and drawing the whole thing, and then I'd try the paper on myself and see if I like the look of the paper before I started to work it out going into the prints.
And then what do you do with the print?
Then once I've got my own print company, and so once I've painted up the print and put that into production, I print a length and then start thinking about how it will actually look like on the figure and what it's going to look like.
Let's explain printing a length. She has a very long table of chiffon and a silk screen.
And a silk screen, and then you mix a dye that's a bit like mixing a thick pudding mixture, and you scrape it through these screens which have just the holes of the fabric where the print has been put on photographically. The design is on it photographically, so that when you scrape the dye through, it leaves, like on that one, it leaves the black on one of them and then on white on another.
But each print is like a painting.
It is, and I think of my dresses as works of art, and like to think of them as something that's hung on a wall as well as worn. I don't like to think of all the work that goes into things being something disposable.
So you print a long piece of fabric, and then it goes into the cutting room or into a pattern, or do you have the dress in your mind?
Sometimes. Another time I just hold it in front of me, in front of the mirror, and see how I feel. I mean, an example, I think I've got, oh yes, hidden here. You see, I would have draped the Indian feather fabric in front of me. Can you see?
Yes, and let's hold this up too so you can see
and worked out and cut round the edge of the feathers.
The translation.
And see how that went.
From the drawing up to the...
And I would have just seen what it looked like on me and then gradually let the fabric dictate the rest of it.
Do you think that's the type of thing that anyone could wear? If they look at you and they see such a fantasy person with something that is a look that everyone can't really achieve?
I like to think of fashion as something that is a development of every single individual. I hate it that the dress wears the person. I think it's far more exciting that someone says, I'm going to wear that dress, I'm going to wear it in my own manner. I mean, I'd hate to think that everyone had to look like you or I. I think it's nice that they'd wear it with their own things and how they'd feel.
But a lot of people come to a designer like you or to a person of your brilliance because they want to be dressed by you.
I mean, I make special occasion dresses. I did Princess Anne's dress for her that everyone saw, the fairy tale one, for her engagement dress. And I mean, I'm at the moment doing dresses for Princess Alexandra, who for special occasions when they come to places. So people want one of my dresses which makes them feel wonderful for an occasion. And they're dresses that you don't have to think about. You don't have to think, I've got to hold myself in, I can't do this, can't do that. I want dresses that the fabric is just something wonderful around one. Feels great.
Do the royals look for a certain type of design? Do they go back into your classical designs and ask for something from a particular...
Normally they like to see drawings and then see how they're going to feel for something.
How do you decide what pattern or what area?
I have several meetings, and then they'll say, oh, I feel for pastels, or what have you got, and I'll show you them the different things, and rather like I work here when I'm at Neiman's in LA.
When you travel all around the world, one of your last really great influences has been India. How did you happen to get involved in the Indian?
The Indian government came to me in 1982 and said they'd like me to do an Indian collection, and I said, well, I'll have to come to India and travel around. They said, oh, well, that's just what we want you to do. We put everything at your disposal, and I travelled around, did lots of drawings, and ended up doing a whole collection that is one of my ultimate favourites, and I think you've got the tape of it here.
We do have the tape, and it's part of the fantasy show. Will you talk a little bit about it as the tape rolls and tell us about it?
These are my Peacock Maidens, and I did a print based in India. You see peacocks everywhere, and they're used on all their motifs. So I designed a print with peacock feathers on it, and this is the print that's on those particular dresses. And one of them is an off-shoulder dress, and all around the edges of my dresses, they're all cut out by hand, and they're edged with pearls, and these white dresses are edged with bright pink pearls to match the waistbands that you can see, and these are the sort of very nice, sexy hip drapes.
When you talk about matching, do you just buy the beads that match?
No, I start off, I buy bulk of white pearls, and then all of the beads are dyed to match the different prints that I come up with. Like in the background, and I think she's going to come zipping through in a minute, is I did these wonderful intense greeny blue that I felt looked very Indian and very peacock. And this particular dress had green and very dark, rich, sort of bluish pearls on it. And the print was done exactly to also match the whole thing.
So it's all really dyed, made to order?
Yes, and all the prints cut around the edges of the points. And then the hats were made to go with it, like I do special hats to go with all of the things.
Can you buy the hats as well?
I'd work to order.
I see.
But definitely make hats to go with different things.
Have you designed did you design a bag to go with any of those things?
In my shop in London, I do pleated satin bags to go with everything, and I'm at the moment working on a collection of bags with my own signature idea.
That was terrific. Do you live in London all the time?
Well, I live in London but travel around America half the year.
So you're really not there all the time. Zandra, you were just telling us about some of the accessories you made, and they were pleated bags. We have a jacket that's pleated similar.
A classic one of mine from the Sea collection, and those were the swirls like seashells, and it's very fine pleating on satin, and then it's made to swirl around to form the edges and the collar.
And right behind you, there's another beaded dress. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's one of my latest ones, and it's based on the embroideries that you see with the tribes in Thailand. And you can see it like the thick sort of pleating that they did, and then where this all comes down as gathered fabric, I just did lines of design. And it's all glistening like little fish scales.
We're going to get a close-up of one of these dresses so we can see the type of hand rolling and the type of beading. So will you explain it to us, and we'll have the camera come in close? This is called your rainbow?
This is my rainbow, and I had the fabric specially done so that it was dipped in colour, top and bottom. And then I put the swirl on that's also made out of the satin pleating. And here you can see the pink pearls that have been dyed to match the print. And this print was part of my Venice collection. After I'd been to Venice, all the little swirls that you see on the ceilings and everything that I drew.
See the little hand?
And that's the hand rolling with the pearls around the edge. And all the rhinestones are dyed to match.
Let's look at this dress.
This one was called Byzantine Swirl, after very strong gold and the influence of Byzantium and the richness, and all the rhinestones are sewn all around the different parts of the pattern, and the zigzag rhinestones to match the zigzag of the print, and the pearls around all the frills.
These are the type of things that don't always have to be worn. I remember the first time I bought a Zandra Rhodes. After I wore it for 2 or 3 years, I hung it on the wall because I felt like it was a piece of art and I wanted to see it and enjoy it.
I actually think life's going more and more that way, because no longer is the world going to be able to make more and more bulk. You can't. I think you should have a dress and then you should get it. Maybe I'd love to do wonderful pleated satin frames, and you just get the dress out of the frame and you become the picture for the evening.
Perfect.
And then put it back again afterwards, and you've got a dress. You're not saying, oh, I finished with that, because I think that's what's wrong about fashion. I like to think I'm a designer transcending that, where I do art because I love painting and drawing things, and then the dresses are just a three-dimensional extension, rather like being a sculptor of fabric around the body.
But you do paint, and your work does get framed and put on walls.
Well, I had an exhibition in Los Angeles last year at the Dianson Galleries, and I'm going to be doing another exhibition in Tokyo later this year.
What type of work do you show at those exhibitions?
Well, some of the drawings and paintings that go into this that I've done in my sketchbook, you know, like little plants curling and ferns and things like that. And then sometimes drawings of heads showing how I do the makeup and how they have all their jewellery on them. Imaginary, very imaginary watercolours.
Watercolors. Also,
Yes.
prints. Do you make prints?
I've done some prints, postcard prints of my fashion shows, and in fact the very first one that you've got on your wall is one that I did with Angelica Houston, like, oh, I'm not going to mention how many years ago.
But the idea of conservation is a very good idea on your part. They say so often that the Americans just want to throw everything away and they keep
I think
buying
less and
new
less.
things.
I mean, I've done exhibitions all around America, and you helped me curate some of those, didn't you?
Yes.
And I mean, I'd love to do more, and I'm trying to extend and rewrite another book, you know, and write another book of my latest adventures, and then have some more exhibitions around the country.
Where is your favorite city in the world, since you are such a great traveler?
Oh, now you've got me. I find that very difficult to commit myself. I think that sometimes it could be when I'm here in Los Angeles, it could be when I'm in Houston, depending. It's like on one particular inspirational trip where you suddenly think that's the place to be.
What do you like to do when you go to a new city, say?
I like to see the museum. I like to see what I feel makes that city tick, like going back to Las Vegas. You've got to see the lights, you've got to see the shows, then you do drawings and you try and analyse the lifeblood of that particular city. And then it leads you to different things.
Are you a late night person?
No, I'm sort of a very boring early morning person. I prefer to, I'm doing a whole collection of sunrises because every single sunrise is different. And I try and draw those, and it's wonderful.
Oh, that sounds very good. So do you think we'll
I could
be
do a
seeing
sunrise dress, couldn't I?
that? Do you think we'll be seeing that in your next collection? Is that how it takes?
It takes place by, and it's always a total accident. You never know what it's going to be. You know, you do a series of drawings and it's something that just sparks off that makes you, lead you into the next thing. Like I did temples and lotuses from Thailand, and it was only after drawing all the different things that it came to me.
Do you have a kinship with the people when you're in traveling in different parts of the world? Do you seek out people from the particular areas?
When I was in Thailand, I ended up by myself because the friends I was with wanted to just sunbathe by the sea. So I went around as if I was sort of like a journalist on a war crusade with all my cameras and my sketchbook on my back. And I'd sort of like maybe draw the natives or go and see the tribes, but I don't. The rapport is more when I'm with my friends, when I talk about it afterwards.
So it just comes just easily to you? Observing.
No, I don't believe design's easy at all. I don't think anything's easy. I think that probably the cleverness of it is making people think maybe it's easy.
Well, I think you do it so easily that it does look easy. And we always see you walking around with a sketch pad, and it does look easy.
It's a discipline rather like doing exercises. You know, if you do it and you look at a flower and you think, instead of just saying, that's a lovely flower, quick, get the sketchbook out, draw that flower. Or like, get the sketchbook out and draw you in your jewellery. They're all things, and if you let it go, you've let an experience go that you shouldn't have done.
What we're going to see now is another roll-in on your latest...
it's my Hollywood collection.
Oh, your Hollywood collection.
There you are, you see.
Let's see that right now.
I've got a feeling it's the one that's the clip where it's all the rainbow dresses.
We just saw that rainbow dress.
That's it, and I played it with Over the Rainbow. That was a different orchestration, but very pretty, and I had the girls with sort of like Hollywood-style hairdos, and lovely big, this one that's coming on has big floaty sleeves and just sort of flows. And it's lined with flesh lining, so it looks as though it's daring, but in fact it's absolutely wonderful, and you can see how all the rainbow cascades all around the body.
That is truly fantasy. Who are some of the celebrity wearers of your clothes? I know you have a list so long. Just name a few of them for us.
Oh, when you go and push something like that on one, you start thinking, who do I know? Who do I know?
Hollywood stars, princesses, Hollywood stars.
I just did the wedding dress for Jenny Agutter, who was the star of, was it The Railway Children? In the UK, she did
We
that.
call her a Gruder here. We probably pronounce it wrong.
Oh, I see. Well, that sounds very exotic, that. And
I know Jackie Onassis has worn your clothes.
And Lee Radziwill. And also
Marissa Berenson. I could name them for you. This is similar to one of the dresses we showed earlier, the little flounce.
And that's got the little sort of romantic heart print at the top of it. And it was rather a compliment, really. I mean, all this last season I've been seeing all my heart print copied out of Paris, you know, in some of the embroideries I've seen. And my people have said, is this yours, Zandra? And I've said, oh no, that must have come from us. Oh, and that's the dress that you just saw with the sort of flower at the side of it. Looking very elegant. I mean, I think dresses should be elegant. I think they should make people feel wonderful.
And I think your clothes do that.
That's part of that, the Byzantine swirl print, and you can see how that all sort of swirls and it's cut to go all around where the body is and the neckline.
Zandra, how many shows like this do you do?
I do 2 a year to launch the actual look, and then depending on what I'm asked to do, like I did a very grand one for chemotherapy in New York earlier this year, and I do various charity ones.
That was absolutely marvelous. This show just comes across so well, too. We have all these things with us today, and with your clips, it makes it even more exciting. Now I'm wondering what you're planning for the future. How can you go on like this forever and ever?
Oh, don't put me on the line like that. I just have to pray I've got a few more ideas, or I'm with you being you're always so inspirational to me. Keep me on my toes.
I think you have so many ideas. What we'll be looking for is your artwork,
I'm
new
trying
dresses.
to do more of that, new dresses.
How about
yes.
another book?
Another book, definitely. I'd love to do another book about my work so that people know the extension, and then more accessories and maybe even a perfume.
Perfume, what will we call the perfume?
I don't know. Maybe by that time we won't want to call it Zandra, but at the moment that's all I can think of.
Have you been trying to develop a scent?
I in fact nearly launched a perfume about 5 years ago, and then the company that I was going to do it with got taken over and got absorbed, and you know how those things happen. But in a way things always happen for the best, and I think of so many different ideas, and I'd like to develop things in such a way that I think it would go differently now.
So you could possibly get into that. What about just giving it all up and becoming a painter?
Well, that would be very glamorous, particularly if I could come and live here.
You like Los Angeles?
I always enjoy it.
We like you here too. We are very, very happy to have had you with us today, and I think once we start becoming aware of the work you do and seeing the way the art is transcribed from your sketchbook, from your photographs, onto the fabric and into a dress, I think you've really brought new dimensions to the people who are watching us today. We want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for asking me.
Will you come back?
Oh, yes, please.
She will be back, and the next time she's back, she'll have new surprises for us, because that woman is just phenomenal. She can do anything with a piece of fabric. I go out with my camera, and I can do just about anything with my camera as well. I cover parties, charity parties for Angelus magazine, and today our click page takes place at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and it's the party for Larry Hagman. Had this great set on the stage. There's Larry and Mara Tamara Squire was the chairperson, and of course Deborah was this terrible girl who was on Dallas, one of JR's girls. Mel Torme sang, Ray Anthony led the orchestra. Melinda Wayne Munoz is one of John's daughters. Lois, of course, was on Dallas. There's my mom, Faye, with Gretchen Wayne, Michael's wife. Bing's daughter, Mary, is also on the show. Carol O'Connor and Jimmy Murphy, who both own restaurants in Beverly Hills. It's a great shot. And then the next party you're going to see is at the Beverly Regent Hotel. It's a private showing of Elizabeth Gage Jewels. Elizabeth is from London, and she brought some of her creations to the hotel so that many special people were able to see what she did. Linda Gray was one of the hostesses that night. Jeffrey Lane brought Elizabeth here to the hotel that evening. Waldo's a terrific designer. Marina Sirtis is on Star Trek, and Eric was happy to see Linda. Linda said she knew him when he was a little boy. Betty Garber is a designer for the Regent hotels. And of course, there's George. Brenda Vaccaro. And Claudia Ruggieri, whose family owns Biche. And there we are. Wave goodbye. Thanks for being with us on Etc. And we'll see you next time.